It's true. All of it.
It was the name of the Porg on the Millennium Falcon.
It's strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that Porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
This is Liam Morgan.
It's Graham Parker, the Hoof GP, and this is why you should never.
How I got suckered in.
I'm so embarrassed that I'm here.
You're wasting your time. You got better things to do.
Never listen.
Those darling, yummy Reverend and the Reprobate.
Are you ready to do this?
I'm ready.
Everybody ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Christian Nerds Unite podcast takeover. As many of you know, Ricky and his lovely wife Marie are handling. Are you scooting
Christian,
in? Why are you scooting
I
over?
realize I'm off on the
It's
thing.
because you didn't set the TV in the right spot.
No.
So we are here today. We've got the Reverend and the Reprobate, which is myself and a man who was drunk the day his mom got out of prison. It's Dan Gibson.
And also, I'm basically a pastor.
David Jesse.
He's never going to let us ever be a part of the Christian Nerds Unite podcast ever again.
We're done.
Definitely not.
This is a Reverend the Reprobate takeover.
Yeah.
For the Christian
Nerds Untied. So, David Jesse from Tatooine Sons. What's up, David? How are you, sir?
What's up?
He is
excited to be here. Glad to step in and help out. And all of our prayers going to Ricky and his wife as they're navigating this amazing opportunity for Marie. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. David, as always, is joined by his two favorite amazing podcasts. It is also Ashley, Ashley with Fangirling Over Jesus. What's up, Ash?
Woo! Super excited to be here. Like he said, super excited to help out Ricky and his family, and can't believe how always loving just how good God is.
Yeah, and the Christian nerd community is so cool.
We should high level this for everyone, just for those that don't know.
Right.
What's going on with Ricky's story is a fascinating story with him and his wife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So if you've listened to the previous episodes of CNU, you'll know that Ricky's wife is a cyborg. For the last 3 years, she's had an artificial heart. She's been either plugged into a wall or a battery, as there's been a machine that's been doing all the work of her heart that she's been attached to. 2 weeks ago, they told her that she's finally got a heart. They've had the heart transplant has been done, but heart transplants are weird. So she's been actually kind of open, not completely closed, for over a week.
Yeah.
They finally closed her up, and just in time for Ricky to kind of get pneumonia. So like he's battling like his own thing. We were talking to him and we were like, hey, look, we have an amazing show takeover planned for you. Could we do it? And if we get you canceled, then it happens on your airwaves and not on ours.
That's right.
And he was like, yeah, that's good enough. So that's
we can say whatever we want. It won't affect our shows that
exactly.
much.
Yeah, we can actually give our real opinions about things on Ricky's show that we've just taken
So let's
over.
talk Batgirl. No, I'm just kidding.
So I want to start off by talking about all of us have been on con panels over the last couple of years. Ashley, you just got your first chance to be on one. Talk to us about what that experience was like for you being at first off, what was the name of the convention and what was the panel you were on?
Yeah. So it was at GalaxyCon Raleigh, which is it used to be Raleigh SuperCon. Now it's GalaxyCon, and I love it. It is it's really close to where I live, like an hour and a half, so not bad. And I love it. It's a really great convention. They had like the Clone Wars trio was there. They had a lot of other people that were there. They had like Katie Sackhoff was there, Rupert Friend. A lot of, you can tell my leaning is towards Star Wars. But they did have other people, I promise. But Hector Mira, I forget how he pronounces his last name. I'm sorry, Hector. But with Faith and Fandom, he's been somewhat of a mentor to me really for 4 or 5 years, because he was the first person that I found that I've like realized like, oh, this faith and fandom can go together. And he had offered to let me be part of a panel anytime. And so we showed up for his Friday panel was about just like that, like finding God in the geek. And he kind of had it as a conversation with a lot of people, but he was really cool, and he was like, yeah, come up on stage. And so it was a conversation with the audience as well, but he and I kind of went back and forth a little bit too, and just talked about, what is it like to be in church, but also, nerd out about these things. What is it like to be a leader? What is it like to be, if we've experienced church hurt because of our passion for fandom, just kind of things like that. It was really cool. And people were really awesome getting to speak into that. So
well, that is great. And we actually want to surprise you, Ashley, with this is a lady named Alicia who was at GalaxyCon, who saw your faith and fandom panel, and she had some things she wanted to say to you about it.
Oh, hi, Alicia.
Oh, I think your audio.
Just got to wait for that eternity of connecting to audio.
Yeah, connecting to audio. So Alicia had a very flattering post about you on the Christian Nerds Unite page on Facebook, and so we were like, hey, you know what? Let's get Alicia on. Let's see what she has to say.
Oh my gosh. Hi, thank you. You're so cool.
So
how are you?
Yeah, so Alicia, so you got to see.
How are you guys?
We're doing great. So you had talked to us a little bit off air. What is it that you wanted to say to Ashley?
Yeah, how was GalaxyCon for you?
It was fantastic. I had such a fun time. I am utterly exhausted, especially with having my 1-year-old there. But it was such a great time. And specifically with Ashley, it was amazing being able to hear her and Hector's panel. I've met Hector many years ago at a convention, and so I've been to some of his panels, and this is the first one that he's had Ashley with him, and it was fantastic. It was just wonderful being able to hear her story and her perspective, and a bit similar to me and my story, and so it was great. It was a breath of fresh air hearing another fellow female nerd.
Yeah, but we're not girls, are we?
No, we're not girls. We're not girls at all, so we don't know anything about these female nerds. So, Ashley, what do you think about being bombarded with, a person who was at the con? What do you think?
I'm crying because this is thank you.
This isn't gonna work. That
means people keep asking me this week. They're like, what was the convention like?
Yeah,
no, we've lost her.
No, we kicked her out.
We kicked her out. We don't want her to
make her
out.
Yep. That could get a little boring for us. So, David, you've done a few panels. What were?
Wow.
You started crying, and the guys were like, "Enough of that. We're moving on."
Wow. I feel like I just got kicked in the butt all the way from Texas. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so in fairness, right, we have been talking to Alicia for the last 2 days. She had this really lovely thing to say about you, and we're like, Alicia, we want to have you come on to get to say those things to Ashley. And she was like, oh my gosh, Ashley, that would be amazing. We were like, yep. Do you want to come on the podcast and talk about it? She was like, yes. So we told her the whole story.
It isn't boring.
Yeah. And we said, so we're going to have you on for a few minutes. And Ashley she's moved by really sweet things. And as soon as she starts to get emotional, we're going to hang up on you.
You told me that? Oh my gosh.
You shouldn't have given our secrets away.
Yeah, we're just pulling back the curtain.
These are Reverend Rep's trade secrets.
And so Alicia was like, no, that sounds great. As long as I get to say hi to Ashley, I can tell her
I just want to apologize to Ricky and all the regular listeners of Christian Nerds Unite, because Ricky's show is so tight, so put together, so thoughtful.
This was really thoughtful.
You got us.
And look, she said absolutely any time.
No, there's difference between putting thought into something and being thoughtful.
She got to say nice things to Ashley. Yeah. They're real compliments.
And we kept it short like men.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Oh my God. Well, that was really cool. It was.
Yeah, we thought you'd enjoy that.
Don't love the rug coming out, but I appreciate the thoughtfulness that went into the part before that.
Yeah, for sure.
She's awesome. She was awesome.
This should give everyone here a greater respect for our wives.
Well, Alicia, in Christian Nerds
Yeah, I'm
Unite.
praying for them on a daily basis.
You're
now,
cool
by
in
the
our
way.
book.
Yeah, thanks.
Ever since Heather
on.
friended me on Facebook, I'm like, oh, sweet Heather.
Oh, that's awesome. So we also want to pull back the curtain here on something else. For the last 5 months, we have been working on something for David Jesse. When David was on our show, David told a story about when he sang.
The feed is.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna just do.
He's
a little
like Maverick in the plane. He's just so lost sound right now.
So when David was on our show, David mentioned that he was in the Colorado Children's Chorale.
Yeah, just tell the story.
And when he was in the Colorado Children's Chorale, he was singing at the John Denver Naturalistic Symposiums. And that, long story short, there was a commercial that was going to play because he was doing the intros for, or the commercials for Post Raisin Bran. The lights were out. David was trying to find a spot, dove into what he thought was a blank spot. It was off stage. And then he stood
6
up.
feet.
Yeah. He goes down. Then he stands up, and you can kind of see him on the projector trying to find his spot. Then the lights come on, and he's supposed to be like 2 scoops of sunshine.
And 4,000 New Agers applauded. It was awesome.
It was wonderful. So the next day, we called the Colorado Children's Chorale. And we're talking with...
We launched a full
See, this is funny
We're
because
talking-
Colorado Children's Chorale is not even the right thing. So if you
Okay,
call the
so-
Colorado Children's Chorale,
no. You don't
then we're
even,
good.
You don't even know. So
You,
the
you
Colorado
wait,
Children's
you wait,
Chorale...
David Jesse. You wait a minute.
The Colorado Children's Chorale
God.
lady answers the
Marsha
phone.
Hendricks. You talked to Marsha, didn't you?
She
We
puts
know
us,
Marsha personally.
She puts us... We actually do know Marsha personally now. She puts us in touch with... the person who's the director of the Colorado Children's Chorale. And then we talked to the archivist. Now, they did actually do the John Denver Symposium, but they didn't have any record of David Jesse. They said, what about David's parents? And so I'm like, I'm friends with David's wife on Facebook.
This is breaking news to good news. I'm Charles Spurgeon. In the next few days, we expect severe weather in the form of torrential downpours, much as the torrential downpours of grace that God lavishes upon us in our hour of need. I'm reminded of the story in Matthew where Peter reaches out to Jesus, who is walking on the water. And as he is on the water, Peter cries out and says, Lord, may I come to you? And Jesus says, yes, come. As Peter sees the wind and the waves crashing around him, he is terrified. He says, Lord, please save me. And Jesus stretches forth his hand, just as he will to you, sinner, as God sees you in your hour of need, and you reach out to him for help. This has been breaking news to good news. I'm Charles Spurgeon.
Hey, thanks, Chuck. David Jesse's wife, Miss Christie. What are the names of David's parents? Let me tell you why I need to know. Christy goes, that's hilarious. I'm in. I won't say a word. So I get David's parents' names from his wife. We send him to the Colorado Children's Chorale. They are looking and searching. We're talking to their archivists. They got nothing. They put us in touch with the Colorado Springs Colorado Children's Chorale. No. And so we start talking back and forth with them. Well, they need the birth date of David Jesse in order to make sure that he is in these certain age ranges. So it just so happens during this time, I have just picked up his 2 sons, his 2 amazing sons, Nate and Sam, the day that I get this message.
This is terrible.
So as we're going to, I'm taking his sons to the hotel in Fort Worth that they're supposed to be at while they're on choir tour. And I was like, hey, I've got something that I absolutely need answered
Is it
from
getting
you
hot?
guys.
We need it.
And,
Where you guys
and they
are
were
at,
like,
'cause
what? I
it's
was like,
starting to
here's
get
the
stuffy
deal.
in this room.
Here's the deal.
right now.
I can't tell you.
Please, God, don't show a video or
I
a
was
video
like, hey,
at
look,
all of me singing.
I need you guys. I'm gonna ask you a question. I need you to give me an answer, but you can't tell your dad. Sam goes, no problem. Nate goes, maybe.
And this is why, and if anybody that listens to Tatooine Sons knows, I say this all the time. This is why Nathan is my favorite.
Oh, for sure. Nate was like, look, if it's going to compromise my dad, I'm not going to do it. I was like, it's not. So I explained the thing to him. They give me your birth date. So then I'm like, okay, this is probably the age range. These are the few years that it was been in. The Colorado Springs Children's Chorale, they're looking for it. I talked to their archivist. That lady puts me in touch with a lady that like kept a bunch of home videos about stuff at her place.
No,
I talked to
no,
her
no,
on the
no,
phone.
no.
She does not have any of the VHS tapes of this happening.
Thank the Lord.
So we just wanted you to know that we have taken out a credit card in your name now that we have all of this info. And for every $100 that Danley spends, I get 3% cash back under the name of David
There we
Jesse.
go.
Thanks to Apple Credit.
Yeah.
So
You
this
got
has
$3,000 coming
This
your
has
way.
literally been like a months-long journey for us to turn up.
You guys really
nothing.
need to figure out something better to do with
Rev
your
and
lives.
Rep investigates. Gone wrong.
You know, the world, there's a lost and dying world, Reverend. Maybe you should spend a little bit more time focusing on that than David Jesse and the Colorado Springs Children's
But so
Corral.
these are the things. These are the emails that I send when all of the people that I could be talking to are asleep.
And John Denver. You left that out.
Yep. So
That's a big event. David Jesse and John Denver in Colorado together. Are you kidding me?
Huge.
This is worthy of an investigation.
But we can find no evidence that it happened. Like none at all.
So-
Neither can anybody else. However, the people in
Praise the Lord.
The people in Colorado Springs did find your parents, so they do know that your parents were involved. They are the only people in your family that I'm aware of that we have not talked to about this. That was not in on this at some point. We had Sam on Tuesday to talk about Lord of the Rings, and we were like, hey, look. We're still looking for this. And he's like, okay, cool. Now that you got my number, if you need any other information, just text me. I'll just whatever you need. So there you go.
Wonderful.
That's the type of effort that we've been putting into our show so that we could have you guys.
Nice.
On. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
it's one thing when I tell the story. It's another thing when people are starting to try to find video.
We searched hard. I actually got software so that if they needed to copy it to VHS, I could digitize it. Like I've got everything that we needed to do this. And like Christy's even followed up. She's been like, "Hey, any luck?" I'm like, "Nope, not yet." She's like, "All right, keep me posted. I'm excited."
No, friggin' David.
Yep. Nope, not at all.
Story that, frankly, at this point, we have no reason
So when
to
I was
believe.
so when Christy and I first got married and we found out we were having our first child, one of the goals that I had, this was something I had planned on for years, was to make Saturday Practical Joke Saturday, where I would play practical jokes on my children every single week,
father.
and my wife wouldn't let me do that, and I just want to go on record right now and say that rule has now gone. Because my family seems to the only one that will not have practical jokes played on them is Nathan, because
for sure,
as everyone knows, he's my favorite. So
and I will say,
Sam and Christy, like cherry lifesavers in the shower head, all of these things, they're on their way.
Yeah,
you should prank Sam by dyeing his hair red and see how he likes it.
Yeah, see how he likes being a ginger for a
see if
day.
I bet you he'll be a pretty angry redhead.
Yeah, no.
So there we go. So.
No doubt. But Nate did totally have your back. He was like, no. If there's nothing, I mean, if
it's funny because
it's gonna hurt Dad, like
Nathan
and
I are we're simpatico. I mean, we're tight. We think the same way. Our personalities are very similar.
Yeah.
And Christy and Sam's are also very similar, and so I can see why this played out the way that it did. But there will be repercussions.
Yeah.
That will
Wait,
happen.
me?
I'll let you know. We'll
me
talk about them on the
personally?
show at some point.
No, not. There won't be repercussions for us. We'll get to, as will all the listeners to this week's Christian Nerds Unite podcast. When you listen to the Tatooine Sons, you can find out what repercussions David dished out to his son and his wife based on this episode. So stay tuned, because
I mean, literally,
all of us have a
the
bit of a
practical
backlog.
jokes at my college, because it was Pensacola Christian College.
Yeah,
If anybody knows anything about Pensacola Christian College, it's probably the most uptight conservative college on the planet.
Right.
So there was all this like pent up anger and frustration among the guys. So those practical jokes in the dorm rooms were legendary. I've got a whole archive of things that I can begin to do right now. So
Ashley, do girls play practical jokes?
Do what?
Do girls play practical jokes?
I think they do. I'm just not good at them, so I never do.
Oh, well, if you want to be good at practical jokes, you've come to the right podcast.
Let's do it. Here we go. It appears.
So, hey, we know that David's got a heart out here in just a few minutes. I know you guys have something really cool coming up in September. Y'all are part of a big group of Star Wars podcasters that are raising money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Will you tell us a little bit about what's going on there and some of the cool stuff we can be looking forward to?
Yeah, absolutely. So the super cool thing about this is the third year running for Podathon. It got started during COVID. Most of these podcasters were engaged or were planning on attending Star Wars Celebration Anaheim that year, and it got canceled obviously because of the pandemic. And so we came together for a few hours to raise some money for Make-A-Wish and to talk about Star Wars and invite some potential Star Wars personalities to come on, or potentially invite them to come on. Didn't have a ton, but it was a lot of fun. We raised in the first year, a little over $3,000 for Make-A-Wish Foundation, which was awesome. We were so excited about it. Came back and did it last fall, and we just, our minds were absolutely blown by the people that participated in it, and the personalities that came on board to be a part of it. And we raised over $8,600 for Make-A-Wish that year. And so we're doing it again in September. The goal this year is to raise $10,000. And when we had our meeting earlier this week, the first official meeting of all the different creators, YouTubers, and podcasters that are participating in this, it was revealed that the amazing, which is great. I'm wearing my Star Wars: The Last Jedi shirt today. This is just for you, Danley.
Shots fired.
I have that same shirt, and I got rid of it.
It was announced that the headline guest this year is going to be the amazing, brilliant director of The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson.
That's awesome.
My goodness.
So cool.
There's
It's
no
so
way he's going to
amazing.
be in attendance.
What's amazing about this is he hasn't given a Star Wars centric interview in almost 4 years.
That's pretty cool.
And he found out about this and that it was for Make-A-Wish, and it's over 65 minutes long interview.
Whoa.
He's talking Star Wars. He's talking
Knives
his
Out
love
2.
for this franchise,
Knives Out
Backlash from The Last Jedi. He talks about that. He talks about Knives Out, of course, which is another huge hit of his, and the coming follow-up film to that.
Bullet Train.
I think it's called Glass Onion.
Oh, Glass Onion.
Which is coming out this November. So that he talks about all of that. So we're very excited about that. It's going to be approximately 14 hours long. Starts on September 17th, 9 a.m. Just go to thepodathon.com to get all the details. You can make donations directly to Make-A-Wish through that. None of the money comes through any of the podcasters or people involved. Everything goes directly to Make-A-Wish for that. So you can be confident about how your donation is being handled on it. And we're excited. I mean, some of the guests haven't been announced. The only guest that we have announced is Ryan at this point. But since,
wait, do we just get
an
did Christian Nerds Unite just get an exclusive?
About
we're gonna we'll do this. I'll go ahead and announce our guests.
Oh, okay.
We were privileged to interview, and it will be released during Podathon, about a 30-minute interview with Christopher Sean, who played Kazuto Xiono in Star Wars Resistance. He was also in Star Wars Visions, and he plays Nightwing in Gotham Knights, the game that's coming out in October, which is fantastic. And it was a great 30 minutes of him talking about Star Wars and his love growing up in the Philippines, and his love for anime, going his Japanese family that he would go back and see, and so his passion for anime as well as Gotham Knights and his love for Batman. So we're super excited about that.
Anybody that loves Batman is a friend
awesome.
of mine.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Except for Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck's reprising the role at least once, maybe up to 3 more times.
I saw.
If Warner Brothers is still in business by the time Aquaman comes out. So
we'll see.
So
check.
This is breaking news to good news. I'm Charles Spurgeon. We've just received a report that there has been an horrific homicide in San Diego, where Warner Brothers and DC have effectively killed the Snyderverse in favor of more lackluster CW programming. This brings to mind the story of Lazarus, as he was in the grave and had surely died, as Jesus goes to the tomb of Lazarus and is approached by his sisters, Mary and Martha, seeking condolences over the death of their brother, wondering why Jesus had not done anything. This is similar to the claims that people have made against DC, and wondering if perhaps they would resurrect the DC universe, much as Jesus, our Lord, resurrected Lazarus from the tomb. After 3 days, and it seemed that there was no hope, he rose again. This has been breaking news to good news. I'm Charles Spurgeon.
So we've appreciated all the time and stuff. What stuff do you guys? So you've got Podathon coming up, right? You've had this interview. You've gotten the opportunity to interview some amazing people. When you guys go on, getting back to our topic, right? To spend your last 5 minutes. When you guys go on panels, what is it that you're talking about whenever you're on these panels? Is it about the podcast you do with your son, Star Wars bringing people together? Is it about the guests that you've had?
Can you just
what
kick
do
him
you
off
talk
right now
about?
and we can just move on.
No, we're keeping David Jesse on because he brings viewers and you bring the pain.
That's right. We've done a couple different things. We talked about when we've done a full. Usually, when we do everyone involved. Sam and Nate with myself, then we talk about the story of Turbis the Porg, which I know that most of the people on your podcast are familiar with, about how we got to meet Rian Johnson in January of 2018, a couple of months after The Last Jedi was released, and Nathan, BB Nate, 12 years old, asked a question that forever changed Star Wars history, and we became the first fan podcast to name an official Star Wars creature in the Disney era, and it was put in these amazing comic books on the wall behind me, Star Wars Adventures 27 through 29. So we talk about that story, and I usually just sort of tee things up and let Sam and Nate take it, and so they are the stars, which it should be. Of that. We've also been invited to talk about, I've been invited on panels to talk about navigating the challenges of fandom on social media, and how it relates to sort of in the Star Wars world, it's sort of become infamous for being pretty divisive and toxic at times. And so we've had to navigate that pretty carefully over the last 5 years almost since we've been doing this. And so been invited to talk about that on some panels and things. So it's pretty awesome.
That is cool. And you do have a unique perspective on that.
I was about to say,
right?
I can almost see no one better to go on and talk about patience and tact.
Yeah. Okay. Couth.
Couth. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Patience and couth.
Which is something that David told me that I don't have last week.
Yeah, it's true. You have no couth.
Yeah.
But patience and couth, the David Jesse story.
The David Jesse story, not Danley.
It's actually a Warner Brothers movie. They completed the filming of it, but they're not going to release it, so it's okay.
Yeah. Well, they'll call Joss Whedon in for the reshoots.
There you go.
Where they're going to eliminate David's beard in certain scenes.
You shut your mouth.
Yeah, so that is interesting, and that's always been one of the things that we love about your show is the way that you have handled those things.
Yeah.
And for anybody on the Christian Nerds Unite podcast that doesn't listen to the Tatooine Sons, we can't recommend it highly enough.
The Tatooine Sons.
We have
great.
had David and both of, as he coined it, his amazing sons on the show.
In fact, the only
several
one
times.
left is the mom.
Yeah, and we will talk to Christy about anything but Star Wars.
That's true.
Dude, I'll talk to her.
Here, if you guys ever decide to do an episode on Virgin River, she's your girl.
I'll watch it.
So
I'll watch it and I'll be ready.
We'll check it out. Or what's
that or NCIS?
I'm not watching that.
If you're either of those, NCIS, she'll talk all about those to you.
What's
guys.
the name of that movie that you're having to go see right now about the old bag lady?
Bullet Train.
No.
Yeah, it's Nathan's turning 17,
DC
and so
pets.
Of course we're going to go to probably the most violent R-rated movie we could possibly go to.
But what's the one
called Bag Lady?
No. There's a movie that his wife is going to make him watch about some lady that was like,
Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris.
Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris.
So she's forgotten about that movie. And I'm not sure I'm going to remind her.
Well, I will. There we go. Don't forget.
Thanks. I love you guys. You're awesome.
You're welcome.
David,
solving problems.
Thanks so much for being on, man.
Thanks, guys.
Tell everybody where it is that they can find you and the Tatooine Sons podcast.
Yeah. Any socials, Tatooine Sons, TATOOINE, Sons with an O, SONS. And that's our website, TatooineSons.com. Just check it out.
Beautiful. David, thanks so much for being on our prayers
and Ashley, I apologize about the fact that I'm going to leave you.
Reverend the
Reprobate
these guys spoils David Jesse's
date for an indefinite period of time. But there was only about 30 minutes that I could feel like I could handle of the Reverend and the Reprobate.
Well,
so
there you go.
Hey, get better, Ricky. Get better, Marie, and we're praying for you guys.
All right. Thanks for being a buffer.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, David.
Bye-bye.
Didn't say anything, but you were here.
You were here.
Good job.
You protected Ashley for half an hour
Yes.
from the Reverend. So
And now
Yay.
it's Ashley's turn.
we've got some people that are about to pop on. We do want you to finish your story about what was going on at the con as we get back to it
and hang out with us for a little
Yeah,
bit.
so Ashley,
'cause
you
you're
were
really cool.
you were on at, you said it was GalaxyCon, right? You got to be on there with Hector from Faith and Fandom. So what is it that you were talking about? We did hear from Alicia. You got to promote some FOJ stuff. It was so cool to see a woman in fandom. So what is it like? What was your angle whenever you were talking about all this stuff?
When I was talking about
or at the con.
Sorry, that's super
Yeah,
broad.
yeah.
Like in the panel?
Yeah, what were you talking about on the panel?
What did you talk about that whole weekend?
Yeah. Give us some. What was the hot gossip that weekend?
I took notes. No. I took notes about the weekend.
Did you really?
Do you have a diary?
Can you just read us your notes? Carrie Pomeroli read to us straight from her diary whenever she was on our episode.
Yeah, then she showed us her feet.
Yeah. She did not.
She didn't.
She is listed on Wiki
Oh,
Feet,
that's
though, which she
hilarious.
revealed to us on here.
Alicia messaged me. Thanks, Alicia. I'll read it in a bit.
Yeah. Or just read it out loud.
You should just close the message.
Yeah.
What?
You should just close it, block her, hang up on her, be like, you.
Sorry, they hung up on you.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know.
It was so with the panel and with meeting people that were associated with FOJ or with Faith and Fandom or both or whatever. A lot of it was just getting to just do exactly that, pair faith and fandom, get to celebrate kind of hope and encouragement with other people, talk about fandoms. Also, I'm really sorry if you can hear random noises because my dog is going crazy in here.
I got nothing.
But she's a hot mess. Anyway, and then but then it was cool too because it was amazing for FOJ because I got to meet people that have been following FOJ online, but it's so different when somebody comes up to you at a convention. They're like, hey, I follow your page and I want you to know how encouraging it is. I hope I never forget what that feels like because that's encouraging to me when people do that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, when you do these podcasts or when you do devote my devotionals or you put social media out there, it can sometimes feel like you're yelling into the void.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And it was so cool. I had a couple people that, grabbed me and my mom on the convention floor or in a different panel that we were just fans in. And they were like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm Molly, I'm Megan, I'm, Alicia or whomever. And they were like, I follow your page and I love what you do. And thank you for doing it. That's really cool. And it's helpful for me to know too, because there are so many, we've just talked about them. There are so many amazing, people out there that are talking about faith and fandom, from you guys to Ricky to David and his sons to all, so many people. But it is nice to see. It was cool to hear from other women that were that appreciated having another female voice in there.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. But then also from a fan standpoint, I got to re-meet Ashley Eckstein, re-meet Matt Lanter. I got to meet James Arnold Taylor, and I got to geek out with them about faith and fandom too, and acting, and that was a treasure too. So it was just an amazing weekend.
That's great. Well, aside from people following your page, what else do you like people to follow?
Yeah, they can follow social media pages. Go
how about
follow Devotional Podcast, which is now on Apple and Anchor FM and Spotify. If you search Fangirling Over Jesus, they can follow along there too. So.
Well, we would like to introduce you to a true man, myth, and legend. It is the author of Bigfoot Bill, the creator of Earthworm Jim, and maybe the one of the most accomplished men in all of artistry and animation.
Tell her about VeggieTales.
It's Doug. It's Doug TenNapel. What's going on, Doug? Thanks for coming on, man.
Yay. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that your brick has changed to Lincoln.
Yeah, we're no longer in exile.
Last time it was exile.
Yeah.
I'm too lazy to paint over it. I want to paint it solid white again, or maybe solid black. I like look at the mood you guys have. The metrosexual lighting back there.
Nothing can be said about the Reverend and the Reprobate.
We are so metrosexual. We got some decorating designs from our wives and Thor Ramsey, and that's why we went with the metrosexual look. So, so as we're waiting, Ethan is about to log on here in a few minutes. We want to talk to you guys a little bit about G.K. Chesterton, because I know you guys started the Chestertonians and all of that. You just got recently finished with the stuff that was going on out at San Diego Comic-Con. How was San Diego Comic-Con for you, man?
It was great. We had kind of a mini meeting of that original Chesterton group. Came probably 5 of us or 4 of us from that original group showed up and had cigars up in LA. So we've read through a lot of his work together. Look at those fine books. That's so nice of you. Look at
they are absolutely amazing. This was my birthday gift from last year from my wife and my parents was the Doug TenNapel collection. I got Bigfoot Bill 1 and 2, Earthworm Jim 1 and 2, and I also got the Making of Earthworm Jim book, and these are just absolutely the coolest comic books and novels that I've ever gotten. Gold gilded edges on them, like it's unbelievable. I think you said
I raise a lot of money and put it all in the book.
You do a phenomenal job. Man, so it's hard for me with Doug not to geek out, but I do have to make a public apology to Mr. Doug TenNapel.
I don't.
Okay, right, because you don't really put much effort into our show in post-production. So when we had Doug on 2 years ago, we made this really cool graphic, we've got Doug TenNapel on the show, and I misspelled Doug's name. And Doug, in all of his just sweetness and generosity, sends me just a direct message and was like, hey, my name is misspelled on the title card. Don't worry about it. And I send him back just completely not paying attention to what I'm doing. I was like, don't worry, Doug. The second N is capitalized. It's just the font. And Doug sends back, no, buddy, the E and the L are in the wrong places. And
it's EL, not LE.
I just want to thank you for the generosity and just the ease that you did that with, as we are just young schlebs trying to make our way into this world. So
and normally I wouldn't even care. It's just for SEO, for search engine optimization.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime it's a positive podcast, I like getting my name spelled right. It helps. That's all.
And we did. I built an entire sermon series around the in exile thing, and we used one of your quotes from the show as kind of a moniker for our men's group. Is that it's okay if we're good pacifists, but we're not going to be cowards. And what the difference between that was, and that was awesome. So I'm going to read an excerpt here from Ethan's favorite, Tremendous Trifles. And I want to kind of get some of Doug's thoughts, and I know Ethan can kind of pop in whenever he's able to get on. So this is starting in the second paragraph of Tremendous Trifles. It says, the boys whom we will call Peter and Paul were at least sharply interested in his remarks, this being the milkman. For the milkman, who was, I need say, a fairy, did dust in that state of life by offering them in regulation manner anything that they chose to ask for. And Paul closed with the offer with a business-like abruptness. Here we go. Here's Ethan coming in. With a business-like abruptness. It says, explaining that he had long wished to be a giant, that he might stride across continents and oceans and visit Niagara or the Himalayas or in an afternoon dinner stroll. The milkman, producing a wand from his breast pocket, waved it in a hurried and perfunctory manner, and in an instant the mottled villa with its front garden was like a tiny doll's house at Paul's colossal feet. He went striding away with his head above the clouds to visit Niagara and the Himalayas, but when he came to the Himalayas, he found they were quite small and silly looking, like the little cork rockery in the garden. And when he found Niagara, it was no bigger than the tap turned on in the bathroom. He wandered round the world for several minutes, trying to find something really large and finding everything small, till in sheer boredom he lay down on 4 or 5 prairies and fell asleep. Unfortunately, his head was just outside the hunt of an intellectual backwoodsman who came out at that moment with an axe in one hand and a book of neo-Catholic philosophy in the other. The man looked at the book and the giant, and then at the book again. And in the book it said, it can be maintained that the evil of pride consists of being out of proportion to the universe. So the backwoodsman put down his book, took his axe, and working 8 hours a day for about a week, cut the giant's head off, and there was the end of him. Okay, so that's not the end of the fairy tale, but I do think that little excerpt about the woodsman is maybe one of the most bizarre things I've ever read in Chesterton. So I'm curious, as you guys, as Chestertonians, and this is Ethan Nicolle, creator of AxeCop, and the new, I think you've at least put it on
Bears
your Twitter
Wanna Kill
page.
You
Yeah, Bears Want to Kill You, as well as the new Chinchilla Show with his
and the great new book.
Yeah, the Daily Wire, and that's what we're reading this out of right here, Chesterton's Gateway. To you guys, who does the Axeman represent, and why is he even a character in this story? Because Chesterton gets away from him really quick.
I feel like he's just. I mean, I feel like to Chesterton, Catholicism is for him. It's common sense. Like I don't know. I would love to get like Dale Ahlquist or somebody to like unpack that more, because I've always been confused by the neo-Catholic. I couldn't even find. I think there's a note in there like I don't really know what the difference is between Catholic and neo-Catholic.
Yeah, he's probably, the quote that he says is probably from like a Catholic philosopher.
Yeah,
you know,
it's very common,
probably old
about humility, and that and it's kind of a classic idea that the giant gets slain in every fairy tale. If you become the giant, you become the bad guy in the fairy tale, and you get your head cut off. That's how I always took that. Is that you're not Jack anymore. You're the giant, and so you get killed. You decide you want to be the giant.
Always the villain. The giants are always the villains.
They are always the villains.
Where's a good movie about giants that are good guys and little bitty people that are the villains? That would be an easier movie, wouldn't it?
Gulliver's Travels?
Gulliver's Travels.
That's true. That exists.
So
but that's probably where he started the whole essay, was on that quote, and then he reverse engineered the whole thing so that it summarizes well. That quote about a giant is out of proportion with his environment. So
it's more about wanting to be a giant. It's not like if you're born 9 feet tall, almost 8 feet tall, like Doug, that you should have your head cut off.
That is one of my favorite of Chesterton's works too. That Tremendous Trifles is amazing.
Yeah.
So we've been having this debate around this particular essay as to whether Peter and Paul were just assigned names.
He's a Catholic,
right? So these specifically then have to do with like the Peter being the Catholic Church and then Paul being the Protestants or the Reformed Church.
Yep.
Why do you think he would make such a statement like that when so many of his audience and so many of his supporters were sort of in that realm of Protestant and maybe the beginning stages of the evangelical movement back then?
I don't believe they were, for the most part. When I go to, they just opened up a Chesterton school here in Franklin, Tennessee, and we showed up to help do a fundraiser for this hardcore Catholic school. And everyone in the room, we were one of the few Protestants. RJ, our other friend, RJ Moeller, was there too. But the number one comment I got is, "I didn't know you were Catholic." I said, "I'm not."
Wow.
And they said, "Then why would you like Chesterton?" Like when they read them, it'd be like an atheist enjoying C.S. Lewis. You'd go like, "Well, why do you like him so much?" You know, and to them, when they read them, all the Catholic stuff comes out to them, whereas we dismiss it.
I do think it's more modern that he has such a huge fan base that's not Catholic. I don't know what it was like back then. He was. I mean, it seemed like he was broad, almost like how Ben Shapiro's big, but he's like this Orthodox Jew. But you don't have to be an Orthodox Jew to like him. I feel like he was that in his time. Like he was very read by a lot of people. It's my understanding. I mean, he did these big speaking tours and things, and he had a big following at the time.
I'm wondering, you're comparing him to Shapiro. Shapiro has said on a couple of occasions, like when he's been talked to about Jesus as the Messiah, he's like, yeah, well, the idea of a guy rising from the dead just isn't that interesting to me. Right? Like that is his thing. And that is one of the things that Jesus said, that, when he tells the parable of the rich man and Lazarus is like, go tell, or the rich man says to Lazarus, go tell all of my relatives, go tell everybody. And Abraham says to him, even if somebody raised from the dead, it's not going to convince him because they're not going to think that it's that great. Ben Shapiro's quote to me is very reflective of that. Do you think that is kind of the same thing where Chesterton because he's a very practical person. He's a brilliant writer. He knew all of kind of the ins and outs of the different thought patterns.
Do you think Ben Shapiro would have been a Pharisee?
Yeah, likely.
Back in the day?
Yeah, that he's probably kind of fits into that category as far as dogmatic when it comes to his religious beliefs. But Ethan's not going to say anything about that because they're working side by side now. So when
I'll say it. I'll say it.
Yeah, Doug will say it. So that does.
He's listening.
Yeah, but that does put this weird spin. Do you think that Chesterton, even if shown all of the evidence of the corruptness of the church at the time or like throughout the ages, that would be something that could even push him to evangelicalism, or do you think he was so ingrained in Catholicism that it wouldn't have mattered?
All the Catholics knew then what would have happened. He would have known with the Reformation. So this is what you're really seeing is, this is also what's interesting about Chesterton's time is this is before ecumenicalism came in, where we were all trying to say, we're all under the same Christ, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Back then it was like Catholics were going like, you all going to hell. And then all the Protestants were going, y'all going to hell. This is pre-Vatican II.
Right.
So it wasn't uncommon back then for the divisions to be more hard drawn because people actually believed what their schism said.
Yeah.
Instead of now where people are trying to jettison these institutions and our traditions. In the name of not offending them, we allow people who are hostile to our own beliefs into our family group and community because we found a greater enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I always have to chew on everything that Doug says, especially on his locals page.
Who's the enemy?
Yeah. Who is the enemy, and how many letters of the alphabet are they going to claim?
Yeah, I feel like I have to accept that Chesterton probably there's a good chance he would have thought I was going to hell for not being a Catholic and whatever. I just like reading him.
Yeah, he is fantastic.
I have a lot less complicated answer.
Well, there's a great debate between Doug Wilson and James White.
I've been talking about that.
Which I'm fascinated by, and recently
James White getting a big old flame war with the Chesterton Twitter account.
Yeah, just last week.
What?
He's like just going after him. They're going after each other. I'm going, but James White's alive and Chesterton's dead. But this guy is like clearly a Catholic and just going. It was like it was back in the early 1900s again.
So is James White just arguing with everybody that will allow him on their show at this point?
This is breaking news to good news. I'm Charles Spurgeon. I want to bring you good news today of a standoff that has been just completed, a 3-day standoff between Miss Crumpet of Thurman Street and a squirrel which has gotten into her bird feeder. The story is reminiscent of the story of Zacchaeus as he was in the tree as Jesus walked by. And Zacchaeus, similarly, a thief in many respects, and he saw Jesus walking by and asked Jesus if he would come to see him. Jesus, seeing him in the tree, said, "Come down, Zacchaeus. I'm going to your house today." And Jesus will invite you into his presence as we reach out to him, as we see that we have need of what he is offering to us, that is salvation for our sins. And we can only hope that Miss Crumpet of Thurman Street will reach out to that squirrel and perhaps offer her some seeds and sup with him. This is breaking news to good news. I'm Charles Spurgeon.
This was a
Chuck.
Twitter back and forth with the Chesterton account that just quotes Chesterton.
Yeah.
And he and
Everyone
they
saw the editor will like commentate.
Yeah, and the Chesterton account was just going off on Calvin and reformers. Just, tweet after tweet. And I'm going, geez.
That's something I'm going to have to go back and revisit. Because I do think that that's an interesting thing. So I want to finish this essay, and I know that Doug and Ethan, you guys have been generous with your time. So we said 10 minutes, and y'all have already given us 15. But we'll finish this and then get some closing thoughts from y'all. It says, such is the severe salutatory history of Paul, but Peter, oddly enough, made exactly the opposite request. He said he had long wished to be a pygmy about half an inch high, and of course he immediately became one. When the transformation was over, he found himself in the midst of an immense plain covered with a tall green jungle, and above which, at all intervals, rose strange trees, each with a head like the sun in symbolic pictures, with gigantic rays of silver and a huge heart of gold. Toward the middle of this prairie stood up a high mountain of such romantic and impossible shape, yet of such stony height and dominance, that it looked like some incident of the end of the world. And far away in the faint horizon he could see the line of another forest, taller and yet more mystical, of a terrible crimson color, like a forest on fire forever. He set out on adventures across the colored plain, and he has not yet come to the end of it. Such is the story of Peter and Paul. So do you think this is all about the church, or is this him kind of setting the stage for what will be his, like the content of most of his writing, which is the idea of wonder in all parts of life?
I mean, why I like it is the simpler reason why it's about wonder. It's about humility. I've never taken it and like tried to dissect how that's Paul and that's Peter in the church, because it doesn't seem like that's what that book's about. But if he's making that allegory, I don't know. I've never dug too deep into that.
He just wouldn't separate the two. The idea of being Catholic from being humble. Right. So we would separate the two, because we obviously believe that Protestants can be humble, and John Calvin was amazingly humble. So, and Paul, what we believe would be humble. So it's just, I think he's also cracking jokes.
Puts little digs. Yeah, he puts little digs in his writing like that. He's not trying to make a big allegory as much as, or that's the sense I get, that there's like, you guys put those little digs in there. There was a quote that we have a few Catholic guys in our Chesterton group, and one of them was reading us that when he became a Catholic, he said he hadn't had enough wonder to become a Catholic, and when he did, he was able to. That was like some quote around that like thing that for him, he connected wonder with being Catholic. I don't get the connection.
I would probably be wondering a lot of things if I was Catholic too.
Man, so do you guys have any joke. Doug, you got any closing thoughts on this bit?
It's a great piece regardless. And I learned a lot from it, about being happy with being small, the pygmy, and humble. And he knows that our nature is to want to be big. So that's, to me, the most important lesson. And it's probably more relevant for our time now than it was even for his. So it's amazing. And there's something else where he's throwing away jokes all over that thing, throwing them out. And he goes like, the mailman who was a fairy, and he just keeps going, and this guy who became a hideous giant, and he just keeps going. The giant laid down across 5 or 6 prairies, or 5 prairies. He's just throwing it away, and he's so brilliant. He's so wonderful that I'll always love him. And he brings you to your knees, and he sits you down, and that's what's important.
So we picked this one because Ethan says in his book that it is his favorite of all Chesterton's essays. I'm gonna have to. I've got it 1 and 1A on running after one's own hat.
I like that one,
which is one of the more comedic and funny ones.
Which, by the way, Ashley, have you heard of G.K. Chesterton? Have you read anything of his?
I was wondering who.
Yeah, so this is Ashley.
We did a terrible job on the Christian
podcast.
Hi.
This is Ashley
Nice
with Fangirling Over Jesus.
I heard about G.K. Chesterton yesterday when they invited me on here and told me about him, and I did some Googling today, and that is unfortunately as far as I've gotten. But I'm really
the book that introduces him to you.
Yeah, this is great. I'll send you a copy of this, and you can get those autographed from Ethan's website from the Bear Axe store.
I am super curious. Like after just like an initial Google, I'm like, okay, how have I not heard about this guy? And I need to know more about this guy. So I am excited. So thank you. You've opened a whole new world to me.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong journey. All of us who have cracked that door open, it is a feast you're about to step into, and you'll realize it is a crime that none of us heard about him until we had to Google him, because he's been hidden from the world. And I think he's better than C.S. Lewis. I mean, he's an incredible genius and even more voluptuous of an artist. And he holds his own. He does not fall apart and get all squishy and weird because he embraces the arts. It's a very skilled wordsmith and artist and everything about him. And he's written 11,000 essays, so you'll never get to the bottom of them. And just, he wrote books and plays, and just, he's so prolific, and all of it is brilliant. It's truer today than it was when he wrote it 100 years ago.
And so much of the stuff that he talks about in those essays is now, like, he called out the Nazis before they were the Nazis. And in an essay,
something's coming.
Yeah, we Kirsten and I were reading it. My wife and I were reading it the other night, and he says, yeah, it's on barbarism, and he's like, yeah, what's happening over in Germany? These people are about to become terrible, horrible people, and our prime minister just wants to have tea and shake hands with him. And I'm like, when was this written? And like, just a few months before Poland got invaded, and G.K. Chesterton.
He didn't even live to see what happened in Europe.
Yeah,
he died in the 30s.
33, I think, or 36 or something.
Like 37.
36.
Yeah.
But they predict everything. He's predicting postmodernism and material. Specifically, the pre-moderns were watching in horror. This is C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, and Chesterton. Were watching in horror as modernism was blowing up on the scene. So that was the big thing. But they also concluded that postmodernism would eventually come.
I was even just
the
like
prophets of the time.
I was reading, like, I found like the website, like Chesterton.org, and was just reading, like, even this part, like, I mean, there were so many parts to it that I've already been like, I need to see that, more of that. But like, just the fact that he wrote what led C.S. Lewis to become a Christian, or at least that's what it's saying, it led, it inspired Mahatma Gandhi, like, it inspired Gandhi. I'm like, wait, what? Like, this is the guy responsible for this? He should be first in our history books. And then what you guys are just saying, that's incredible.
He influenced playwrights like Orson Welles did The Man Who Is Thursday, Ian Fleming, who created James Bond, like all these famous people who were culturally literate back then, P.G. Wodehouse, all of them knew Chesterton like the back of their hand. He was a household word, and they just buried him.
That's so crazy. Well, Doug and Ethan, we can't thank you guys enough for the time. Thank you guys for coming on and helping us to fill in while Ricky and Marie are wrapping up her heart transplant. Our prayers definitely go out to them. Doug, as we close out, will you give us a little bit about, or tell the audience a little bit about where they can find you and what your new projects are that you've got rolling, not the least of which I'm hearing rumors about Bigfoot Bill 3?
Yes, I've been writing Bigfoot Bill 3. So that will probably come within the next year when I get some pages done. I'm trying to wrap the story up. And that's when I offer the back catalog. So you have to wait to get them unless you want to buy them from eBay. You can get them fine. It doesn't bother me. But the big project is that I'm proud of is my son is doing a YouTube channel called Ed in Exile. So he needs subscribers and views. So go to Ed in Exile. He's been opening that back up. We're trying to pay for his college with it.
Nice.
So Ed in Exile is my son.
We'll have to have him
And
on the
then
show.
Follow me on Twitter and you'll be offended. And I have a Facebook fan page, Doug TenNapel, where I do daily drawing tutorials and writing tutorials and things like that.
And then the locals page, right? We can still subscribe to that as well.
Doug TenNapel in Exile on locals. And people can subscribe, or all the content I post for free. But if you subscribe, you're allowed to comment on it. And we just talk about right-wing politics and Christianity on there.
That's amazing. And Ethan, what have you got going on? And where can our audience find you and buy some of your amazing art and books?
Books, Amazon, pretty much. Bears Want to Kill You, you buy it directly from me. It comes right from my garage. So if you get that, just so you know, you could buy it off my own personal store. It's the same thing. I'm going to get both orders. Other than that, Chesterton, I highly recommend either. A lot of people like the audio version of the Chesterton book. It's fun to hear Chesterton in a casually read way, because usually it's either a stuffy kind of British guy or it's like a free recording of some guy who doesn't actually read Chesterton. He just does these books voluntarily. And then also my Patreon kind of is alive now. Like,
yes,
I went through some drama with the Babylon Bee when I lost my job there, and I had this flock of people show up at my Patreon, which basically hadn't been updated in like a couple of years. So it's become, I do interviews. I've had, I do the kind of a podcast on there. We have a great Discord community. It just kind of took on a life of its own. It's like a really cool community of Christian artists and guys that are more geeky than I am. I don't know what the heck they're talking about, stuff, Star Wars and stuff, whatever. And but it's cool. It's a great community, and my Patrons just pay whatever you want, and you get everything.
Yep.
So,
my wife told me after you were no longer employed by the Babylon Bee, we had just done an interview with somebody from there, and they were kind of asking us to. They're like, "Well, you can bleep Ethan's name or do whatever." And my wife reads that email and she goes, "You know what we can do? We can move our subscription money over to Ethan's Patreon page. That's what we can do, Mr. So-and-so." And so that's what happened. Also, Ethan, as well as Doug's beautiful books, Ethan will do some custom artwork in your stuff if you order it. We've got some of that. This was my first anniversary present to my wife from Bears Want to Kill You. Doug and Ethan, thanks so much for coming on the show. Are you guys ready to announce what your next podcast is going to be now that Audio Mullet is defunct?
We haven't talked about it.
All right. Well, whenever y'all are ready, let us know. We'd love to promote it. Thank you guys for coming on.
We get close. We get close every once in a while to launching a new one, but then life shows up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you guys a ton. We appreciate it. Y'all have a good night.
You too.
Thanks for having us on. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
Takes me longer to find the lead.
No, you're all good. So Ashley, that was so great. Ashley, what's up?
Okay,
yeah.
I do want to know real quick.
Okay, yeah.
We, for the listeners at home, we didn't really tell anybody what was happening today. We're trying to put together this last minute for Ricky.
Yep.
And we had some fun ideas we hoped would work out. But Ashley, from your perspective, being blindsided, what did you think?
What did I what?
What did you think about everything? It was, I'm sure it was complete chaos.
No, it actually, so it wasn't because I feel like when I talked to Lucas, he was like, yeah, it's going to be, he was like, I don't know, you said something like 90% of what's going to happen is planned and we'll see what happens with the rest of it.
Oh, that is the reverse of what I said. I said about 10% is planned and we'll see what happens with the rest of it as I just continue to cycle through Doug's and Ethan's books. That
does sound more familiar.
Yeah,
anyway, either way. And I was like, cool, we'll just go along. I knew that you guys were working on David, had obviously no idea about Alicia coming on. That was really sweet. I appreciated that. That was that after the initial shock, I'm like, oh, they cared enough to prank me.
No, that's awesome.
But no, and it was cool to meet those two guys and listen to them as well. And it's always a joy it's always a weird kind of joy to get to talk to both of you. So, it's great.
Good.
Yeah.
It's a weird joy. We're like, hi,
love you guys.
Do I have to send those T-shirts back?
Yeah. So I'm curious.
I want to keep them.
Lindsey Buckingham, is there?
Sorry.
So there's a running bit. There's a Saturday Night Live sketch called "What's Up with That?"
Yeah.
Where they where every week they have Lindsey Buckingham on and these other guests, and they never get to asking Lindsey Buckingham anything. And this thing is like he cancels his plans. He does. He missed his wife's birthday and his anniversary and his mom's funeral and like all these things so he can be on the show just so that the host won't ask him anything. I do feel a little bit like the last 20 or 30 minutes has kind of been that. Like, oh, we're going to have Ashley on the show to listen to what Doug and Ethan think about G.K. Chesterton. But
that's good.
Now that we've interrupted you 3 different times to tell this story.
First off, we're sorry. And second...
Yeah, we're not sorry as in we're apologetic. We're sorry as in like we're bad people. Yeah. Like we're sorry. We're sorry human beings
we're
for
just
doing
sorry.
this to you. No, so getting back to the con, you got to talk a lot about faith and fandom and kind of what that was like for you. You loved so many people getting to come up to your booth and talking about what FOJ has meant to them. Did you realize the reach of Fangirling Over Jesus was as wide and deep as it apparently is?
No. Because I think it's easy to get. I try to not be bogged down by, like numbers as far as like who's subscribing or who's on Patreon or who's whatever. Like I don't really care, but I do know that relative to other people, my numbers are like small. And so what was cool is like I hung out with Hector at his booth a little bit, but I didn't even have like a specific booth for FOJ. It was just cool, like people, like the fact that people took the time to find us, because my mom and I would do an Instagram live every morning, and we're like, all right, we're on the way to the convention center, this is what we're wearing, these are what our backpacks look like, if you see us, please say hi, because we're not going to be able to see everybody. And the fact that they actually like took us up on that and took the time to reach out, that was really incredible. And it meant a lot.
Well, your mom is officially smarter than I am.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Because of our different approaches to going to a con.
Yeah? Oh my gosh. Have you heard, I don't know if you listen to our show, but you shouldn't. No one should. That's why we tell all of our guests at the end of the show to say, this is why you never listen to the Reverend and the Reprobate. But go ahead. Tell her.
You go ahead.
Please do tell, because I don't think
so
I
here's the
remember
thing.
this.
We got invited to come to Dallas Fan Expo, and it was not only was it this incredible opportunity, like hundreds of people had applied. I don't know why they picked us. And like as soon as we get the word, because we've been waiting for weeks to hear back from them, and so we just assumed like, hey, this isn't going to happen. I'm going about like scheduling the Lifeway camps that I'm going to go preach at, and we're just kind of like not going to happen. The week before, we get an email with like, hey, you're on. If you guys want to be on, we've got your time slot. This is it. Sorry it took us so long to schedule it. And my wife I look at her and I was like, we got Fan Expo. And she's like, oh my gosh. So Danley and I talk to each other and we're giddy. We're like, ah. And then Dan calls me the next day and he's like, I don't know if I want to do it. I was like, what?
Dude.
How do you not know if you want to do it? So then I have to talk him into doing Fan Expo. I have to talk him into promoting our podcast at one of the largest fandom things, right? So one of the largest cons in the country, where we would get to meet all of the Hobbits, like all three of the Star Wars voice actors were there, which I will say...
and the Trailer Park Boys.
Tamara Morrison needs... Like, he is really the fourth person in that group.
He's so cool.
Because he's so cool. Great and did so many voices. I don't think he gets as much recognition as he should for being all of those people. That said, like when you have this conversation about how excited you are, only the next day, only the next day to be told like, hey, I don't want to do it. I got to talk him into doing it.
Didn't want to do it.
Oh, you so did, princess.
I said I was thinking that I didn't want to do it.
Danley is so precious about his ego that he just can't like wrap himself around like going out to a place where people might be like, you know what? I got a tomato. I'm chucking this at you. So
it would destroy me.
It would. Like, he would never recover.
I wouldn't leave the house again. I already don't want to leave the house.
So we
I almost didn't come here tonight.
We get to the point where he's like, okay, I'll do it. And then his stipulation is, I'll do the con. Here's the thing. I'm like, okay, he goes, we can't promote it. Like, why would we not promote it? If we're going to do it, why would we not promote it?
Okay.
24 hours.
Dude.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Sometimes if you're so afraid of failure that you accept failure so that you don't try and fail. And that, I think, is kind of what happened in my brain.
That's phenomenal logic.
Like, I'm not saying that it was illogical. It was not. It was emotional. I was afraid.
Look,
I get it. I mean, I get it.
With wonder, and then start over about life. Yeah. So,
that did happen. That's accurate. What he said.
Finally get him to where he's like, "All right, I'll do it." Then we can't promote it.
I feel like you're telling the story like you have to manage me.
That's get a call. That's right.
Manage my emotions and my feelings. That's not what happens.
I manage your emotions and your feelings. You manage me on. For the show. This is how we manage each other.
Another bit.
So 24 hours before, I get a call and Danley goes, I think we should promote it.
24 hours before that
24 hours before that Saturday. We ended up having a ton of fun.
I did take some notes, and that was the first one. promote it next time. No, they loved us. They
Lord
want
have
us to come
mercy.
back.
Yeah,
but
the guys
I made some dumb decisions.
The folks that ran it at Chuckload of Comics, they were absolutely awesome. Dallas Fan Expo was great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
We wore Ashley's gear, and you can see that on our YouTube channel. Ashley is part of the Marvel Multiverse of Madness playtest, which you can hear here on the Christian Nerds Unite
and
podcast.
she's one of the Valkyrie.
She what?
She's one of the Valkyrie.
What?
Oh yeah,
No.
that's true. You are one of the Valkyrie now. Congratulations.
I am. Wait, what?
Yes.
Yeah, we just dubbed you that.
Okay,
Me as
cool.
Dime
I
Store
was like,
Zach
wait, I
Wild.
was storming the game. I'm so confused.
No, so we are. Stay tuned because pretty soon, when Marie and Ricky are healthy again, we're going to be creating our own characters and playing into that portion of the game.
That's
so we've
really
got to
fun.
flesh some of that stuff out. Ashley, talk to the CNU audience. Where can they find you? Where can they pick up some of your sweet gear? And
if you want some of her T-shirts first, before you talk to her, I do have.
Yeah, we've got a
5.
few, and
we've got.
Yeah, we got a
about
few.
5.
We'll sell them at a discounted rate. Now they do, like some of them smell like us, but one of them does smell like a pregnant lady because my wife has been wearing it a lot. The Hawkeye shirt because it's really
That's so
comfy.
sweet.
So,
and you want to take it back.
Are you trying to take that?
You're trying
And
to
you want to
take-
take it back. You're
you're
trying
trying
to
to
take
take
that
his-
shirt back
his
away from my
pregnant
precious
wife's
sweet
favorite
wife.
shirt.
I'm the one who said at the beginning, y'all can keep it. If
Okay,
you
we're
do
gonna
sell
keep
it at a
But
discounted price.
that's not how we're
You
spinning
have
this narrative.
you have to give the profit. You have to give the proceeds to that Potathon Make-A-Wish Foundation. That's my only stipulation.
So yeah.
Where they can find me, yes, fangirlingoverjesus.com is our general website. You can go to Etsy, search for the shop Fangirling Over Jesus. We've got Star Wars, Marvel, Lord of the Rings, Doctor Who. If you like Ahsoka Tano, you're gonna love our shop. Ashley Eckstein, Matt Lantern, I've almost called him Obi-Wan, James Arnold Taylor all have items from our shop now, which is really exciting. And you can also go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM, search for Fangirling Over Jesus, not Fangrilling, which is what you people called it last time. Fangirling, Fangirling Over Jesus, and you will find us.
Yes.
Fangrilling is not a thing.
Yes. No. I mean, it would be
But yeah.
cool if it was, but it's not. I agree.
Right.
It's unfortunate that fangirling is not a thing, but fangirling is.
Fangirling is,
Fangirlingoverjesus.com.
but we are not just for girls. But
I think
I'm a girl, so
fangirling
hence
is just when the
fangirling.
fans have negative things to say about stuff. That is fangirling.
That's true. Like if
I'm
Alicia came on and she said something about, first panel could have done better. That would be a fangirling. That's not
That
what
would be a
happened.
fangirl.
That's not what happened.
No.
Luckily, she came on. She told us ahead of time that she loved it, and
Mm-hmm.
and she told us some nice things today. But it was just a little long, so we had to hang up.
So Ricky, Ashley, thanks for joining us on this very spastic journey.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
and
an hour ago you were getting compliments and seeing people get hung up on, and since then you've got to talk to Doug TenNapel, Ethan Nicolle, David Jesse, see some cool pieces,
and Alicia and Glenn starting off with, and
yeah.
it was a great
So
group.
yeah, so
thanks everyone for coming on.
Yeah, thanks
checking
David
it out.
Jesse,
Thank
thanks
you, everyone.
Ashley, thanks Doug, thanks Ethan, thanks
Keep Ricky in your-
Alicia, yeah, thanks
and
Ricky,
Marie in your prayers.
thanks the people at the Cowboy House, Dan. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks,
yeah,
buddy.
yeah, this was a good time. For all of us at the Reverend and the Reprobate, Ricky and Marie, I'll get well quick. We love you guys. We are praying for you, and for everybody else, y'all have good get give, and we'll see y'all next week.